All right, you grasshoppers, we are back at it again with the great, the one and only, the studly Mark Puttenbank, former strength and conditioning coach of the New York Rangers, worked up with the New England Patriots, works with military people. He's got a company called Patriot Training Systems. Correct? I got it right after 12 episodes. I finally got it right. Great to see you, bud. How you doing? How's your weekend?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Good. Yeah, really good. Had a great workout this morning. And I know we're going to touch on some functional training stuff today, but today was my leg day. So I was doing a lot of good mornings, some squats, good mornings, deadlifts, a lot of leg work. And I feel like, and again, I know we're going to talk about more. It's an interesting topic for me because I remember times before when I hurt my back when I was playing. So 30 years ago, whatever. And to think that I'd be doing the good morning. So good morning for anybody that doesn't know, it's you're getting in a squat position and you're basically just hanging out. You know, you've got to really tighten your core and everything like that. But it's a great feeling because I've worked so hard on my core that I'm now able to do those good mornings. So
it's a phenomenal exercise. It's really your low back and your a little bit of your hamstrings and your glutes, but really low back.
Yeah. It's great for people who want to increase their squat, right? To really strengthen so they don't fall forward during the squat.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
So just real quick, I know so that's just so everybody understands. So again, the deadlift, you're bending forward, so you're lowering your lower back. And sometimes if you really working at your squat, you'll find on the heavier weights, you start leaning forward too much instead of coming straight up. Part of it, not all of it, is strengthening that lower back. So if you've got a strong lower back, you'll be able to support yourself even better. So.
Yeah, it's essentially the deadlift is just coming up out of a deep squat. So your spine is in the same position. I don't know if you can see my hand here, at like 45. You want to maintain what we call spine in line. So your spine's in line with your neck and your head. You don't want to have rounded shoulders. You certainly don't want to have a rounded back. But yeah, so if you don't have integrity in your core, especially the lower back strength, you can't deadlift and you can't squat. It's that simple. And if you are, you're using poor technique and you're going to get hurt.
All right. So functional training here. Give us your explanation of functional training.
Well, functional training is a term that's been popular now for quite a while, and it pretty much means training for everyday activity. Getting the groceries out of the car, shoveling the snow, digging ditches, just the day-to-day life movements that we're going to participate in. And so as opposed to bodybuilding where it's purely aesthetics, where a lot of training is aesthetics, or training for sport where you're focused in on very specific skill sets and needs, the functional training is really just to maintain a level of a healthy lifestyle and be able to perform. Most people or a lot of people that work in an office don't have the opportunity to get that training in because maybe they're working with a personal trainer, or they're going to the gym, and it's more of a bodybuilding type of regimen, which is great. It'll help, but the functional training is more designed for that type of day-to-day activity.
But you mentioned your trainer there too. So you should be able to say to your trainer that, listen, I want to be able to train not just to look good. I want to make sure that I can bend over and pick up those groceries or pick up my grandchild or whatever, right? And that trainer
Absolutely.
should be able to say to you, okay, here's the exercises we need to do.
Yeah, so it's more of a holistic approach as opposed to just an aesthetic approach. And by holistic, I mean, just to your point, I want to be able to pick up my grandchildren. I want to be able to, like I said, shovel the snow or get stuff in and out of the car. Let's say I go and I buy railroad ties because I'm going to do some construction around the house. You want to be able to do that in a safe manner that you're not going to hurt your low back. All right. And that's where, if you explain that to your trainer, he or she should put together a very holistic program that includes strength training, flexibility, stretching, and all. And yeah.
Stretching. Oh, listen, that's what I think with most guys people in fitness, trainers, guys, people just want to work out. We have some things that we say to other people that they should do, but we don't always do it ourselves, right? Most people you talk to, they're like that. They're never perfect in their own training, even though they know what they should be doing. I'm definitely like that with stretching. I know the advantage of stretching, and I do some stretching, but I don't stretch enough. There's no question. And I know we talked about that even like after the workout, it's even more important when your muscles are even warmed up, right?
Yeah, there's some confusion about what stretching means or how to do it. And basically, as we talked about a while back, the most important thing is to get properly warmed up and make sure that you're sweating. And that's once you start to sweat, you're pretty well warmed up. And then you could do some either dynamic stretching, which I really like, as opposed to static stretching. So what do I mean by dynamic stretching? Say an open hip flexor rotation. All right. Really great for running, for skating, for jumping. So you're warming up that whole capsule around your hip. That's a dynamic stretch as opposed to static stretch where you're just kind of pressing against something and resisting. One of the things you can do though to increase your flexibility is a PNF stretch or proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. Fancy word for meaning. So I stretch to here, you're giving me some resistance, I relax. I stretch to here, you give me a little more, and each time we go a little further and further with the stretch, and that increases your flexibility and your strength.
So somebody is trying to resist you going into the stretch or trying to make you stretch
let's say this is my leg and this is my hamstring, right? And these are my feet. You're pressing back, releasing, pressing back a little further and releasing. So that's a PNF stretch, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. And what it's doing is,
you can, if you don't have somebody helping you, can kind of do that on your own. Right? Put your leg up.
Yeah. Well, with a band. I mean, so there's actually businesses now that do nothing but stretching. Like you can go, it's like going to see your trainer and they stretch it for 30 minutes and it's quite productive. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the big things for me, like we touched on, is that I've totally gotten into the Bosu ball. So we're talking about the functional training for me. I talked about how I had a bad back, like a lot of people had bulging discs and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of us have that. And it got to the point where it was my back and my legs and the numbness and the tingling and all that kind of stuff. But now it's incredible how since I've just really dedicated myself to getting on that Bosu ball with pretty much every exercise I can, not all of them. Obviously, I'm not going to deadlift or squat or something on the ball, although I tried. But if I should do a video someday. It'd be pretty funny to do a video of some of the falls I've either had or not had, right? Like when I do my videos now working out, I edit them right from the start. So you don't see me on the ball. But man, there's been some funny times where I've tried to push the limit a little bit. Oh, the other one I've tried a little bit too, and I did a video the other day. I just using a regular ball. So getting up on your knees. And again, when you're doing an exercise on a cable fly or something like that, where you've got the cables to kind of support you. So now your knees are on just a regular round ball. But man, it really, like what I find is like mentally too, it's like you need to focus. There's no just saying, okay, I'm just going to get my 12 reps and just kind of wander off someplace mentally. You need to be in the zone, right?
Get on the ball, right? On the physio ball. There's guys that squat on them.
Yeah.
With the barbell. Who was the kid we had in New York Ranger? Was a goaltender. He was a kid, I think Swedish or Finnish. But anyhow, he could do that. And then it was a kid we picked up on waivers from Washington, Trent. I can't remember his name now. Centerman, up and down a lot. But we were in Columbus and he got up on the ball and he would do dog pointers on it, opposing limbs. So right arm, left leg.
Standing on the ball?
No, kneeling on it with your hands, right?
Right.
Right hand goes up, left leg goes back. Then you switch, left hand goes up, right.
And not supporting himself with anything else, just on the ball himself.
And I tried it. It took a whole bunch of diggers, but I finally got it. And it really, because now, see, the beauty of using the Bosu or the physio ball, or also, that, I don't know what they call it, but it's like, it's blue, like sort of like styrofoam, but some kind of foam. It's about that thick, say like 6 inches thick, and it's a square. It's like 2 by 2. And so this is functional training. So we all know how you can do, say, a front lunge, right, with dumbbells at your side, or a reverse lunge. I'm sorry. So you put your front foot back, forward in a 90-degree position, and you shoot your right leg back, come back up. Reverse lunge. That's cool. Now do it on that pad so that the leg that's the stabilizer, and that forces you to use all your stabilizing and synergistic musculature, which is so important. And this is one of the things I know that I had a discussion with a coach one time. He said, the guys use the leg sled for the leg strength. I said, that's great until they go to deliver an open ice check, because they're going to have sufficient leg strength to deliver the hit, but they're not going to have any core stability. They're going to get blown right over. Right. So that's a true definition of functional strength.
And I found too, for everybody, you can't always do it with every exercise. But if I'm working my bicep, let's say I'm doing a curl, I can either, if you don't have equipment like that, you can stand on one leg. You can use the sponge. You can use the sponge thing that you talked about. You can get a balance board. And I like the idea of constantly challenging yourself and working your way up. So again, start on one leg, use the sponge, go to a balance board, go to a Bosu ball, and then ultimately go to the big round ball if you can get there, right? So the idea is that you're not just strengthening your bicep, you're strengthening your core. Whatever exercise you're doing, you're strengthening your core all the time, and you're always trying to increase the degree of difficulty to make yourself even stronger there, right?
There's so many ways to skin that cat. So here's one you might want to try, and anybody out there, it's a great exercise for your core, primarily your obliques, right? So you take dumbbells and you put one on the floor flat and the other one's on edge. So the top, you put so in this case, let's say your left hand, try to get my hand in your left hand on top of the dumbbell going this way, and your right hand's on the floor with the other dumbbell. And you get in your position, a plank position, and you're going to do one arm rows from the floor, right? But it's really not a back exercise. You're going to feel it on the stabilizing side that's up on top of the dumbbell that stood on end. The next day, you're going to feel like someone kicked you in the side. Nathan Parrott, now he's a big, strong guy. I had him do it with 40-pound dumbbells. Now, he could probably do a one-arm row with probably 140. But he at first, he's like, I can't even get it off the floor. It feels like there's somebody standing on your hand. But the next day he said to me, Mark, I feel like I got kicked. Yeah. So that's another way to think about functional training, to take a very common exercise like a one-arm row and add a dynamic to it that now makes it a functional movement. The other day, I think I sent you a video where, in fact, doing a one-arm row, so my left hand on the bench, left knee on the bench, I'm doing a right arm, one-arm row, okay? But what I did in addition to it was that the left hand that was on the bench, I had a dumbbell. So I was doing a one-arm row with the kettlebell. After I completed the rep, the hand that was on the bench, I did a hammer curl. So I got to really keep my core tight because I'm trying to keep that flat, straight back. So it's really kind of maximizing a very common movement and getting a pulling, a curl, and then core work all incorporated into one movement.
Yeah, totally. And I think key is too that, again, keep trying to get better and better at it all the time. So you may start off doing a curl exercise on the ball, Bosu ball, using both hands at the same time, and then you may you've mastered that. Now let's go use separate cables, right? So you can go to machine, we get separate cables. Hold the one arm up, curl. Hold the one arm up, curl. So, and again, the key is to really keep your upper body from, don't be twisting your body as you're doing it. The idea is to really strengthen that core by holding it tight like that. I love that stuff. I think it's what I love about it is instead of just adding weight all the time, you're adding your degree of difficulty through other means, right? It's like
So what's great about using bands now and a lot of the machines that have cables in the gyms, we can do antagonistic muscle groups. In other words, I can do a push and a pull in the same movement. Yeah. So I can do a one-arm pull with this arm and then a one-arm push, tricep push down with this arm and then switch. Sure. One of the things I like to do with any sport that involves a high degree of balance and stability and where you're being hit. So football, hockey, combat sports. So what I would do with you, Tom, I'd put a band around you and I'd stand off to the side and I'd be giving you some resistance from the band. And I'd say, now do some upright rows or do some one-arm snatches so that you're being tugged and you really got to use those stabilizers because, and in fact, I dumbed it down years ago. I used to have guys do on the ice, I'm sure you've done it too, where you just line up along the wall and you hook them and they got to fight through it, right? Yeah. They got to fight through it to get to a loose puck or whatever it is. The game's changed a little bit. There's not that much hooking going on, but still, it's still a component that, you're going to be on one skate or one leg going to drive to the net with a layup, and you're going to get hit. And you need to maintain your athletic coordination. Yeah. And most of that's really core strength.
The other one I've seen too, and you can incorporate, to me, you can do it in a lot of exercises, bench press, squats, deadlifts, where you put unbalanced weights on, right? So you may have 5 more pounds on one side or the other. Now, again, you got to be careful, make sure you're warmed up and everything. And bench press may be a little bit more dangerous. You got to make sure you're not overloading too much on one side. Yeah. But it's, man, you really, because you pick it up and you think 5 pounds is going to make a big difference on one side or the other, but it really does. Like, you've got to push down on kind of one side and up on the other. So it's good.
Well, and the other thing too is so let's talk about the bench press maybe with a dumbbell, single arm at a time. All right. And again, because now I've got to tighten up. If I'm using my right arm to do my dumbbell press, I really got to keep the left side of my core tight, or else I'm going to flop over. So there's another benefit to that as well. Yeah. Are
you big on doing drop sets? So let's say you're going to do 5 sets, and on the 5th set, you're going to get to your max, higher weight, obviously, and then right away you're going to drop it down by 3 or 4 plates if you're on a cable machine or lower weight, and then do another 8 reps, and then you lower it again and do another 8 reps right away. Are you big on that?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a good finisher because it gets a lot of blood flow in there, and the blood flow brings in the nutrients. And then if you do your supplements with your BCAAs and stuff like that, after you train or during your training. There's a benefit to it. There's a lot of talk. There's always been talk about muscle memory. I don't believe it. Muscle does not have a brain.
Oh, so you don't buy that, right?
No. So in other words, there used to be a thought, well, if you're training for just strength, a strength sport,
right,
whether it's powerlifting or Olympic lifting, that if you finish off at like 95% of your 1 rep max, and then you did a light 40 or 50%, you just flushed it right out, that your brain's going to, or your muscle's going to remember the light weight. There's just no research that backs that up at all.
Yeah. Agree. And you touched on something there too. So let's go through the physics of actually working out. So you work out, the idea is you're breaking down muscle tissue. The blood flows into that muscle area to help repair the muscle. And that's how you get stronger and bigger, correct?
Yeah. So there's really a couple components here. So you have the muscle gets it's micro trauma. There's that, and that's where the soreness comes from. It's not actually, there's a common thought that that's the lactic acid that gives you the burn the next day. No, it's actually micro trauma to the muscle. And there's something we call DOMS, delayed onset of muscle soreness. Happens within about 48 hours. So if you have a really heavy squat day on Friday, Sunday you're going to feel it. You're going to feel, oh geez, I forgot we did that leg workout on Friday. And that is your body has now begun to repair itself. Okay. And so when there's the micro trauma, two things occur. Not the muscle, but your brain is saying, hey, we've got to get stronger here because Tom has increased his workload. And so there's certain things that happen on the molecular scale where the nutrients go in and the body responds to the stress that was incurred. Also, your ligaments and tendons are very important in strength. So when you're doing overload work or resistance work, you're actually thickening your ligament and tendon attachments. And how many times have you been on the ice and you ran a guy who looked like a skinny rat and you go, man, that guy's pretty solid.
Yeah.
It's because he had really strong attachments. And I've seen it in the boxing world. I mean, we all know, or at least my generation knows, Tommy Hearns was a really tall, kind of thin dude, but he was a knockout. He had vicious power because he had really strong attachments. And the other part of it, Tom, is the neuromuscular system, which is very rarely spoke about in training. So the neuromuscular system is the system that gives you that explosion, right? So we all have we're born genetically with a split of motor units in our bodies that are, I'll dumb it down, that they're fast twitch and slow twitch. And those motor units are innovative. So in other words, if I want to pick up this notepad and place it down, those are low threshold motor units. If I want to get up and flip this table, those are high threshold motor units. Now, there's a way to, your body, depending on your genetic frame, generally speaking, wants to innervate low threshold units immediately and then switch over to high threshold. But by doing explosive training, you can bypass the low threshold and go immediately to the high threshold motor units. In fact, the whole point of overloading, so you squatted at 85% this Friday, 2 weeks from now, you're going to squat at 95%. You're overloading the muscle, but you're also recruiting more motor units. So say you're in your quads, you have literally tens of thousands of motor units. You're not innervating all of them at any given point in time, but through training, you actually begin to innervate more and more motor units, therefore giving you more explosive power.
Oh, very cool. I like that. That's good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
So, okay, let's use that as an example. You do a heavy squat day, and next day your legs are sore. So is it tendency you should be doing nothing on that day, let it rest, or do some stretching or something to
yeah, so you go for a light jog or something like that. In fact, ride the bike for 15, 20 minutes just to break a sweat, because again, you're going to flush out some of the metabolic waste that you incurred, but you're also pumping blood into for nutrient replenishment and start the rebuilding process. One of the great things when we talk about explosive training, Tom, is what I would do. Let's say you're going to squat. So I put you in a squat rack and I say, Tom, we're going to warm up and we're going to do 5 sets of 5 reps at 90% today. But what we're going to do, you're going to give me 5 reps. You're going to rack it. You're going to stand off to the side and you're going to do 12 knee tuck jumps, plyometric, bang, 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 bang. Because what we're doing now is we're giving you the absolute strength increase. Then we step off to the side and we just attack that nervous system right after that strength movement. So we're teaching the body to react to that stress load in an explosive manner. In fact, some of the Olympic style lifts we use, like a clean or a high pull, I would never have an athlete go heavy on that because the risk reward is too high on the risk end because of potential injury. But what I'm looking for there is explosive speed. I don't want to know how much you can clean. I want to see how explosively you can clean.
Right.
And again, that's more of a nervous system or neuromuscular component to the strength gains. But I love that compound training. So
if you're trying to increase your bench, then is it right? Let's say you're going to work. Let's say you're going to do bench twice a week. Is it important then to try to do one day maybe of your heaviest workout, and then the next day you do bench again? You're going lighter weight and faster, more explosive.
Yeah. So let's say Monday you do a heavy bench press workout. On Friday you're going to go lighter, but what I would do are pause reps. So you're going to come down 1,001, 1,002, 1,003, bang, explode back up. And again, now that's really training my neuromuscular system to be explosive. So that when you go back to the heavy day and you increase your workload, you can, because as you all know, the first 2 to 3 inches of your bench press is the most critical. Because once you get the bar moving, it's going to continue if you have the strength. But you don't want to get pinned on the bottom. But so that's where you need that explosion. And we talk about hockey first step explosiveness all the time. That's all we ever talk about, especially when you're transitioning from, going to one night, I got to hit my brakes. Stops and starts, right? We don't want any rink turns. Well, those stops and starts, it is an explosive movement. And that's why for a hockey player that wants to increase his stopping and starting explosive strength, he needs to do that type of explosive. So in other words, the squat rack, bang, right away to some squat jumps, squat tongue jumps. Yeah.
So for the average person on the street who's just wanting to stay in shape, they can still be doing that, right? I mean, you're still
absolutely, yeah.
You're still making yourself stronger. You're still looking better. You're still burning more calories. In fact, you're probably burning more calories that way too, right?
Absolutely. And again, it gets to, hey, functional strength. There's a situation. You got to jump over something or through something or out of the way of an oncoming vehicle. You want to have that explosive power. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're trying to run me down someday, and I've got to be able to get it out of the way.
No. I saw what you did to Melnick with the golf cart, and that was horrible, I got to say.
He's funny, that guy too, Larry Malik. He's good. All right, so we've gone through a lot of stuff on functional training and everything. So diet after you've had this, like I hear studies saying about getting protein in your body within 90 minutes. Is that important to you?
Yeah, that's always been the thought, 90 minutes, and now it turns out it's not really constricted to that 90-minute time frame, but you certainly want to get the protein in because protein it has the amino acid profiles that's muscle building, tissue repairing. You certainly want to restore your glycogen levels, and that's your good source of carbohydrates, and some healthy fats also. So the nutrition is really critical, but I'm not so concerned about the time frame as I used to be.
Yeah, I'm same as you because I do. As you know, we both fast, so I don't eat until noon. But I work out. My workout starts at 4:30, and by the time I'm done my march, and so it's like 7:00 when I'm done. And I don't. So again, it's like another 5 hours before I get any proteins into me. Now that's the first thing I put into my body is the proteins. But I'm with you. The 90-minute, maybe it's optimum to do 90 within 90 minutes. But
yeah, I guess there's just really. I mean, you could Google it. I don't know if you'll see a lot of legitimate research-backed evidence of that.
Right.
Of that, yeah.
Definitely. All right, dude. So you said you're back practicing the hockey, or what's going on? You coach that team?
So New Jersey Warriors were we're a disabled veterans hockey program that I'm a civilian. I wasn't in the military, but the short version of the story is Brad Lukowicz was running a team down in Dallas, and I said, hey, what's that about? And he told me, I said, oh, wow, we really should be doing, I said to myself, we should be doing this here in New Jersey. So I contacted Kevin Fox, who's a young man that had played for me in college. He was a goaltender, and he's the community outreach grassroots guy with the Devils here in New Jersey. And it was a perfect storm because Alex DePalma, who is the USA disabled representative for the Atlantic District, was looking to do something in New Jersey too. So we kind of got together, the Devils backed us, and we've been into this for 2 years now. We really were gaining some traction, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And it kind of set things back. But we had a practice Saturday. And for any veteran out there that's looking to play, all you need is a 10% minimum VA rating, and we'd love to have you. We're always looking for new players. If you're in the New Jersey area, please hit me up on Facebook or here, or go to njwarriors.org. That's our website, and we'd love to have you come by.
Hold on 1 second here.
Yeah.
I knew I had this right there.
There you go. There you go. That's our team right there. Yeah.
There you go. I'm wearing hats.
Yeah, you look great in it. But I mean, we had practice Saturday, and I was telling Tom before we were on the ice. I haven't been on the ice in a while, and boy, it's you don't use it, you lose it. I woke up Sunday morning, my groins were screaming, and my knees were killing me. But it's great.
It's my feet in the skates for whatever reason. For like a lot of times when I have it on the ice and I get back on, I'm just doing a clinic, so I'm just standing there. And it's not like that at all. Once you've skated for a while, your feet aren't like that. So, yeah.
Well, the team though. So just to finish up, cap it up. It's a therapeutic environment for the guys and the girls to get together. It's not about the hockey. It's great. We do national and regional tournaments. By the way, there's no cost to the program. We do a lot of fundraising, but it's just a way to keep everybody in that community active, and they could speak their verbiage in the locker room, which you and I can't because we weren't veterans.
Yeah, I noticed that I'm involved in two of those projects. Well, distantly involved in one of the Vegas Veterans Hockey. A good friend of mine runs that there, and it's the same thing. It's just the guys come back, and it's that camaraderie too, right? Because they're like a team in the military.
There's no
and then
question.
it's down in Virginia Beach as well. They've got the rink down there, and they've had great results. I've got guys coming out playing hockey that suffered from PTSD. I'm going to really quick before we go.
Yeah,
I've got. I heard a veteran talking who has suffered from PTSD, as they call it, and he wants the D removed to get rid of the disability issue.
I agree, because it makes it sounds like that. Well, not that you chose this, but there's something internally wring with you when it's not about that at all.
Yeah, you've gone through some traumatic stuff. There's nothing. You're not a bad person. It's not like you can't function. You've gone through bad stuff.
I think you and I were talking a little while ago, but there's some evidence now, and it really makes sense that in the military, whether you're deployed or not, in training, there's a lot of concussive episodes. So, in training with artillery or flashbangs, especially if you've been deployed and you've unfortunately been in an VBID, which is a vehicle-borne device that goes off, that you're getting TBIs or traumatic brain injuries. And this is what they think really is the driving force behind the depression in the PTS. And it's similar to what we know about football players and hockey with the CTE. Yeah.
And a lot of people, I know you know this obviously, but a lot of people think that to get a concussion or a brain injury, you have to get actually hit in the head, and that's just not the case at all, right? Because remember, the brain's floating around inside your skull, and it's the brain that could come from a whiplash effect, or like you said, from a concussion from a bomb. So it's
so because the brain smashes into the other side of the skull, and that causes the and again that to another level, auto racing. When they hit the wall, it looks like an innocent, not innocent, but not that destructive of an act, and that you find out the guy died. It's because his brain was still traveling at 150 or 200 miles an hour and hit the front of his skull and killed him.
Whether he gets hit in the head or not, it's to stop the brain, keep moving.
Yeah.
Well, great job there, bud. Again, good to see you again.
My pleasure, man.
What's that?
I said my pleasure. Yeah.
Oh, good. Good. All right. And again, Patriot Training Systems, you get a hold of Mark Puttenbank. He's got a website, patriottrainingsystems.com. And he can train anybody. I know we talk a lot about the military or sports and all that kind of stuff, but if it's just somebody at home wants to get in better shape and be able to jump out of the way of speeding cars and everything, so we can do that.
Or even if anybody has any questions in general, I'll be glad to help them. Yeah.
Perfect. All right.
Preacher.
So everybody, see you guys next week.
All right, guys. Have a great one.